So hello, Sarah. Last time we talked about liminality.
So I think while I'm here, for me it's very much about exploring the city as someone who doesn't know the city at all, finding my way. I've done some research before arriving, and there are definitely places that I've identified in relation to this theme of the sea as a social soup that I will explore with my camera and walking and spending time in these places, such as the port, the aquarium, the Museum della Mare. So looking at the sea from these different aspects. And then when I return to Wales, I think that I will work with these photographs to begin to compose them into a film. And then the ideas of liminality, I think, is something that will be explored in the text through the writings of various kind of philosophers who've explored these ideas, and juxtaposing spoken extracts of these texts with photographs of different aspects of Genoa. So, yeah, more of a kind of juxtaposition, you know.
So Genoa would be the second city of your trilogy?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you had before Athens.
Yes.
And so this will be very interesting to see what will happen, because you don't know now what will happen, what your reaction on it, what your impressions are, what your emotions, and what you will find, because it's kind of, let's say, like a mapping.
Yes, absolutely.
Without no borders, without inside, outside, being very closed.
Yes.
So let's say also this, you are moving in a liminal space again. So
yeah, and really allowing myself to be led by the city and what I find, not coming with a sort of already known narrative ultimately that the film will have. This is something that will emerge in the process. Yeah.
So you have a lot of layers. You have time in your work, the history.
Yes.
How to link history to contemporaneity.
Yeah.
So,
and for me, the city is really kind of a great space to do that, because you know, in Genoa, as in Athens, you know, you have the old architecture and then the contemporary and all the different, you know, the remnants of old industry, the new technologies here as well. So the city itself is like a collage, a montage in space, and you see these collisions between the contemporary and the old very starkly sometimes, literally right next to each other. And so in the city, it's like past and present coexist, you know, and I'm very interested in exploring a notion of time, as you were talking earlier, for the Greeks. There's different ideas about time. So there's kind of chronos, which is chronological time, and, you know, our concept of history is very much defined by this, that one thing happens after another. But then they had this other idea of time, kairos, which is a moment in which everything seems to happen simultaneously. And maybe we experience time something like this in reality, that the past doesn't stay in the past. It somehow kind of seeps into the present and continues to affect the present. And I find this a very interesting idea, and how a kind of exploration of this idea might lead us to think about the future in new ways as well, maybe. Yeah,
so if I understand it right, or if this is what I hear, is also that, let's say, that you're exploring, you're doing your research, what happens with you, but at the same time you're creating new imaginary about the city, about what you're finding, about the political views, about history, the social tissue of the city, and helping, or not helping, but let's say opening up a space for participation to it through these images, through this, let's say, tissue you are offering that is composed by fragments, as you said before, of pictures, sounds, thoughts, and this helps to let's say open to participate to this liminal space again.
In the film that I made in Athens, I obviously I was there as a stranger in the city, as I am here in Genoa. I've never been to Genoa before, and I'm trying to utilize this position of somebody seeing a place for the first time and maybe seeing things in a totally different way to the people who live here. And that in itself might offer new perspectives. But in the film in Athens, I wrote a text about the film asking people to imagine that the voice that they heard in the film was a visitor from the future. So there's another kind of layer of, it's not purely documentary, it has a kind of fiction to it. And it's, I guess, in a way, putting the viewer in that position that they might be a visitor to the city at some unspecified time in the future, and what would that future look like? Because I think that there's something about capitalism and neoliberalism, which has a very particular relationship to time, which makes us conscious. Things have to happen at speed, you know, and we have kind of simultaneity and kind of
effective.
Like the cutting edge of global market trading now is done by automated computer systems that are trading in kind of nanoseconds, you know, so time is getting kind of increasingly sort of
instant.
And so I'm trying to take the viewer into a different relationship with time, because in a way this kind of pressured time of capitalism doesn't really allow us space to think, and that's very convenient, of course. So it doesn't really, if it invites us to think about the future, it's in a very kind of near future where if you buy this thing, this item of desire, you will project yourself into a future better you because you own this thing. But it's a very short future, and our ability to kind of have a sense of like a much longer future, I think as human beings it's quite difficult to do.
Yeah, so maybe we could say like false identity or bought identity and let's say authentic identity. So and you try to, with your artistic operation, to let people participate, to find the authentic identity.
Yes, and to have a different relationship with time where that is more contemplative, more philosophical, that allows time for thought and deep thought and for new relationships between things to emerge. And I think that that can only happen by stepping out of the speed of capitalism into a more kind of spacious time. And I think the invitation to imagine a future, not an instant or near future, but further than that, to project ourselves forward further in time, is absolutely necessary, because this is the problem of climate change, is that we're so caught up in the now, and it's so competing for our attention and keeping a very short focus that, you know, even a date like 2050, which has been kind of put out there by kind of climate change scientists for quite a while, you know, we can't get there. yeah, and imagine the world with all of these possible scenarios. And I think that increasingly that's really important. We need to be able to do that, and maybe art can open up a space where we can project ourselves further forward and begin to imagine different types of futures.
So let's say that participation of the audience at your work is also a very an elemental unit of your work. And yes, but as you told us before, you brought also something from Cardiff, from Wales,
yes,
to let participate the people here,
yes,
to the taste of your sea.
That's right, yeah.
And yeah, maybe you can tell us about it.
Yeah, so I was also thinking about how the spectacle of kind of world events somehow disempowers us from connecting to them in a kind of empathic way. And I was thinking about how in Remembrance of Things Past, Marcel Proust, he talks very famously about this Madeleine, the biscuit, and how the taste of the biscuit transforms him to remember. Memory comes very fast to him through taste. And it's been said by scientists that taste is the closest sense that we have to memory, to evoking it. And so I thought if I could invite the audience to also taste something of the sea, and to, in a very contemplative space, explore memories and associations of the sea, but also it's somehow connecting with these millions of people who've had this very very visceral experience of the sea, you know, kind of fleeing their homes. So what to taste the sea might mean. So I've brought from Wales, from a very small place where I grew up, it's called lava bread. It's not bread, but that's just its name, and it's a very dark green, thick kind of seaweed that was eaten traditionally with cockles, and the cockle women of Penclough, this is a very famous area on the Gower Peninsula, where they would collect these kind of food from the sea. And yeah, it was a normal part of people's diet. And I'm quite interested in how over time this has changed, and this has become a real kind of delicacy, something that is eaten in the finest restaurants, when really it used to be poor food in a way. Yeah, so I brought some of this, maybe to screen my film, to talk about some of these ideas and to taste the sea.
To contemplate together.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, that through taste, because also remembrance, it means to put together things.
Ah, yeah.
So we will have you and the artist talk at the end of your residency, and yeah, we are so thrilled to see what your work will be, what your impressions from Genoa are, and what will come out. Yeah. And of course to participate at your soup you will offer then. Yeah. So thank you very much.
Thank you.